So I just had an amazing weekend with some good family and friends and loved ones. And that tended to refill my cup, particularly to be able to let go, especially when you feel as though you have still so much work to get done and there are things that you genuinely want to get done. However, how are you supposed to decipher when to relax and allow yourself to have fun? I think this is always a challenge for those high performing individuals, especially people that I've dealt with in regards to my clients or people that are really highly intellectual. For those in our current society, we tend to honor the long hours and weeks and days and months and years of blood, sweat, and tears. We kind of put those hardworking status and we kind of wear it as an honor. Unfortunately, the challenge is that we don't get enough rest, or even worse, we think we're getting enough rest, but we're always trying to be productive. And so, one of the things I want to talk about is understanding how to rest and how to allow yourself to rest. I'm going to introduce these ideas and concepts surrounding what we value. Particularly, I call these our value buckets. In order for us to see our lives in such a way that is much more fulfilling and balanced, we actually need to learn how to create certain buckets of experiences that we can allocate our resources, whether that be time, money, and just our overall attention, our energy, our focus. If we don't label the things in our lives as important or not important, we end up trying to test and do everything on the list. And sometimes we end up doing things that we don't necessarily want to do. This concept around the value buckets is allowing us to start to capture certain key experiences in our lives. For me, the things that I wanted to capture in my life, and I call these my buckets, my four buckets are family, friends, fitness, health, my business and clients, and my overall spiritual experience, my spirituality, my faith. These are parts of my lives that are very important to me. These are the things that I genuinely value and I find valuable. And so, therefore, organizing my schedule, my resources, even down to spending money on things, makes me realize that because they are in these buckets that I value, it allows me to let go of the uncertainty of is there going to be some kind of return on or allocation of that time, money, and energy. And so, like this past weekend for me, I spent it with family and friends, and I wasn't working. I actually was actually engaged with family and didn't feel this need to try to get things done for my work or for other aspects of my life. It was solely for the purpose of being with family and friends. And so, therefore, I felt much more fulfillment. I think for high performing individuals, we feel as though that our work becomes our whole focus. But if we're not intentional in what we're creating, it becomes a problem for us in the long run. So I implore you to try as much as possible. Think about how you are structuring your life. Start naming down what are the things that you value and or you find valuable in your life and create buckets from that. So you know that these are going to be the things that you're going to be allocating your time and resources towards. Then you'll feel much more fulfillment as a result. I definitely encourage a lot of my clients to take that vacation, to spend some time with family, not as a form of just relaxation, but to allow yourself to see it as productivity and worth something of value. Hopefully, this helps. Hopefully, that you can find your four buckets or your buckets of value. And good luck with that. All right, thanks.